Hello, this is Miss Fox. I'm your art teacher. I'm not here today because I have to go attend training somewhere else. But I have made this video so I can still teach you a few things and help you to review what we learned so far while I'm away. Okay, so we've been talking about printmaking, and as you have done it before, it's a very different type of art. It requires very different skill set, and it's very fast, it's instant, but because it's so fast, you have to be very focused when you print, right? You want to focus, stay concentrated, and you only want to print once to make that perfect shape. Okay? So let's get started and review what we learned so far. So printmaking, what it is, basically involves creating images or shapes or art by transferring ink from one surface to another. Okay, so what we've done with stamps and the rollers, if you guys remembered earlier this week, we basically apply paint onto the surface of a stamp or a roller, and then we transfer that ink to the paper. And we do that, we can make multiple copies. As you guys remember, you had different papers and you went to different tables to try out different type of stamps. And that's the beauty of printmaking, is you can make multiple copies and you can make them very fast. The downside of it is you have to be very careful and very focused when you make the print, because it's only one time. So if you messed up, you messed up. Okay? All right. So what we've done so far is relief printing. There are multiple types of printing. And the basic one, the simplest one, is relief printing. So it basically is when you create an image by inking a raised surface, like from a stamp or rubber stamp or a carved block, or from your hands and your feet and even your lips. Okay, and you cover that ink with ink or paint, and then you press it like on a piece of paper, right? So the raised surface, your hand has fingerprints, right? You have these wrinkles, right? So that's the that makes your palm a raised surface. You have a crevice here in your hand, and so when you print, you can see a detailed outline of your hand and all the wrinkles on it. Our skin is actually not like a smooth, flat surface. We have a lot of bumps in there. We have like a curve in our palm. Same thing, we have a curve in our feet. And so that's when we call relief printing, is when you use the raised surface of the area, you put that in ink and then press it on a piece of paper. So when the areas that are not raised, that are kind of in the crevice like these, they won't get paint on it. So when you put it on the surface, you don't see paint on those lines. It'll just be a white line if you have a white paper. So examples are shown right here. Your fingerprint, as you can see, has ridges. It has raised surface. And same thing as your footprint when you walk in the rain and you come inside the house and you notice a footprint. And then your lips is another one. So those are common examples of relief printing, and that's what we've been doing so far, is relief printing. All right, the other type of printing is stencil. I think I've shown you guys a video on Monday, kind of talked about different kinds of printmaking, and the other one that's pretty simple and basic is stencil. As you can see in the animation right here, the paper has different cutouts in it, and it's like a shape of a flower. So you put that paper over another paper, and then you paint on top of it, so only the part that's cut out will be left on the paper. So kind of like what you see here with the flower. All right, stencil is commonly used in a lot of things actually. On t-shirts. So here's another example. You see the right side. Sometimes you cut out the shape and you paint it or press the ink onto the t-shirt, and you can make multiple copies using that same stencil. The other example is your road signs. Sometimes when you cross the street, you'll see the road has been painted that says stop, or maybe yield, or different letters that's printed on the road. They actually were done with the stencil, because stencil give you the consistency every time you carry that stencil, and you can just go anywhere with it, and then you put paint over it. It's going to always look the exact same. So that's the beauty of having a stencil, is you can again make multiple copies and they all going to look the same. All right, so before we print, so printmaking takes a lot of preparation. Even though the actual print itself is, very fast and it doesn't take much effort at all, but preparing to that point is what takes a long time. And I remember Monday I had you guys wearing aprons. That's keep ourselves clean. And I had you guys roll up your sleeves. See, my sleeve is always rolled up. And then I ask you guys to stay focused. Okay, because if we're chatting, we're talking to other people, we're doing other things, we're not focused on the print. You have to actually look at what we're printing when we're printing it. So you cannot be talking, you cannot be looking around. You have to stay very focused when you print, because like I said, the printing process is instant. It's, done, press, and done. So that very short moment when you press, you have to be very focused. That's when you need that, so you don't make mistakes, right? So that's what you need to keep in mind before we start making prints. Okay, so during printing, you have to watch out for these three main things I've listed here. So the first thing, as you can see my image on the top, the two comparison, one is a fingerprint and one is just a splat. So when you print, you press, I don't want you to hit it, because when you do that, it's going to create a splat, right? It's not going to be a shape of your finger. It's just going to be like a crazy mess. So you want to do it slowly and steadily. You do a one good press and then you lift your finger up. That's the gentle dab. And also, when you apply ink on your finger or on a rubber stamp, you're only going to gently touch the ink, the paint surface. You're not going to press the stamp or your finger into the paint, because what that does is that's going to get paint all into the crevice of your stamp or of your finger. So if you got that into the crevice, when you make a print, you're not just making a image of the raised surface anymore. You're making the image of the whole shape. So it's just going to be a block. Okay. So the second thing also, not too wet, not too dry. And there's some handprint examples. When you have too much ink, you're going to start creating kind of like distortion of your hand, or like a mess, and the paper is going to get all soft and soggy. They're going to start bending. So that example right there, the far left, that handprint, is when it starts dripping. That's when it's too wet. You don't want that to be so wet where it's dripping. And then the middle one is the perfect between too wet and too dry. So you can see the arch of your hand, of your palm, and then you can also see kind of like the wrinkles, the crevice, the lines on your palm. But again, if you're too dry, like the third example to the right, you're only gonna get like maybe the outline or some of the spots. You're not gonna get a good shape of your hand, good pattern. You're not gonna be able to see a good pattern. So you have to make sure you're consistent with your ink, not too wet, not too dry. Find that happy medium. Okay, number 3. So when you do your hand press, finger press, or your stamp, you only do it once. I can't stress it enough. If you keep pressing it, you're going to see the example like the zebra print right here at the very bottom. You're just going to get a big blob. You're not going to be able to see the pattern anymore. So when I say less is more, that means less paint or less presses gives you more pattern that so you can see it. So just again, remember, printing is one smooth motion. It's quick. It's done strategically, carefully. Okay, so if you keep going it over and over again, it's gonna turn into the zebra pattern on the right side. It's just gonna be one big blob. Okay. All right, and how do we use a drying rack? So for my pretty much my second, third, fourth, and fifth graders, you should have already been taught this. So before we put our work in a drying rack, we need to make sure our name is on our work. Okay. And then the second thing, the drying rack has the color of your original table. So we may be going to different tables to try out different stamps or different rolling stamps. So even if you travel to a different table, when you put your work up to the drying rack, you're still gonna go to that rack that has the same color as your original table. Doesn't matter what other table you move to afterwards, you're still gonna go back to that red table. If you start with a red table, you're always gonna put in the red table. If you start in the blue table, you're always gonna put in the blue drying rack. So red drying rack, red table, blue drying rack, blue table. Okay. And you have to make sure you find an empty slot, because if you stack your artwork on another person's artwork, they're going to get stuck when they dry. Okay. And I won't be able to take them apart without tearing them. So always find an empty slot. The rack has different slots. Okay. Just have to find an empty one and align them neatly. Don't do crooked, because you're going to take up more space. Okay, just think about, you go see a parking lot and somebody parked their car slanted and they end up going into somebody else's space. So when you park your artwork in a drying rack, you also have to make sure it's straight, it's neat. Okay? All right, and this is the other thing I have to reiterate a lot during class. So when do we wash our hands? I know art is messy, art can get dirty, you will get paint on your hands. That's just part of printmaking. But we are not going to wash our hands until we're completely done with our artwork. Okay? When you're done with our artwork, that means you should have your name on it and you should have already put it in the drying rack. Okay? And then you also have to wait until the end of class, right? When we have like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I will say stop and clean up. And that's when you going to clean up, right? After you clean up, you put your things away, you put your artwork in a drying rack, and then I will call you and direct you, as you see on the third section. I will tell you which sink you need to use, okay? Because we have a lot of fights over, the sink, using the soap, using the water. People don't line up correctly. So I have to release you guys table by table to go to the sink to wash your hands. So please don't ask me, when can I wash my hands, Miss Fox? Can I wash my hands? We're going to wait until we're done with our art, and that towards the end of class, and when I called your table to go to a sink to wash your hands, that's when we wash our hands. We don't just wash our hands every time our hands get dirty, because art is messy. If you always wash your hands, then you're never going to get any artwork done. Okay? We save that until the last, because after we wash our hands, we're not going to do any more artwork. All right, here's the next thing. What do you need to know when you wash your hands? Okay. I typically go around with a squeeze of hand sanitizer. I know there's going to be a line at the sinks, so you'll get a squeeze of hand sanitizer first. And while you wait in line, you can start rubbing your hands. Start rubbing it. Okay, scrubbing it. And then once you do get to the sink, once it's your turn or you get to the sink, you're going to use one pump of soap, and then you're just going to rinse that off. Okay? Rinse off the soap, rinse off the hand sanitizer, and then you're going to go to the paper towel and just get one piece of paper towel. Okay? The reason why I'm limiting to one is because our supplies are very limited, and we want to be considerate to the students after us, because we have a lot of students at the school that come to art class. And if everybody use multiple paper towel, multiple pumps of soap, I'm going to run out. And that has happened a lot in the past. Okay. So we want to make sure we just use one pump of soap, one piece of paper towel. So, and you might notice that your hand will have discoloration. Okay, but don't worry about it. It will come up on its own naturally. Our skin is alive. We breathe through our skin. Our skin creates sweat, and it creates oil. So your hand is naturally lubricated. You have your body produce that to protect your hand. So the discoloration will come off after time. You just gotta let your body get some time to build up the sweat and the oil, and then it will come off. So when you get home, you take a hot shower, your hand will be back to your normal color. Okay, but it's not gonna look perfect right away. And I don't want you to freak out, like keep scrubbing your hand, because just keep scrubbing it and keep using more soap and more paper towel is not going to get that off. You're just going to have to wait for your body, your beautiful body, creating that natural lubricant to get rid of the discoloration. Okay. All right. So next week is our last week to do printmaking. Again, don't wear your good clothes. You can get paint off your clothes with like stain remover or isopropyl alcohol, and you do some scrubbing, use your elbow grease, and it will come off. But it's best that you don't have to worry about that to begin with. Just don't wear your good clothes. A lot of my clothes is covered in paint. I always just wear like a t-shirt or something. I don't mind getting dirty when I come teach art. So make sure you wear something that you don't mind getting dirty when you come to my class next week. All right, so when you come to my class next week, for my upper grade levels, third, fourth, and fifth graders, you will be making your own stencil. As you can see in my example here, you're going to take a paper and you're going to cut different shapes into that paper. And then I will give you something simple, like paint or watercolor, so you go over it. Right, and then you will see um, the print that you made, and you can do it on a piece of paper, you can do it on a cardboard, any surface. You can actually do it like a temporary tattoo. You can do it on your skin too. Okay, all you need is that silhouette, is that stencil, and then you can make multiple copies of it. So that's what we're going to practice doing next week. Okay. All right. In addition to stencils, we are also making stamps. It's kind of like you pick what you want to do. Okay. Stamp is the same concept, but remember, instead of a cut out, a stamp is a raised surface, just like our lips, just like our fingerprints. So you will be making shapes, raised shapes, just like this flower, and you will glue them on a flat platform, and then you will use that as a stamp, okay, to stamp on paper or other surfaces. Again, you will have to have gap between your shapes, so that way you'll see like a line when you print, because that gap won't get ink on it. It will not get ink on it when you put paint on it. So when you press it on a different surface, you will see that that line. That's because the gap didn't have ink on it. Okay. So that's what we're going to do next week. I hope you guys learned a lot this week. And next week is going to be better, easier, because we know what to expect, we know what to do. So we're going to do a very good job next week. Okay. All right. I'll see you next time. Bye.